So Jennifer, after trying to get together, it finally got here. How's everything going?
Good, good. Yeah.
First and
Interesting times.
foremost, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying interesting times we're in right now, but yeah.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I just want to thank you for coming on the show, and then also, so how is like this whole COVID-19 thing affecting you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm sure it's affecting everybody
Yeah.
all over the place, right? It's not easy for anyone. But I've been in isolation since Tuesday. So I went home from work because I had cold like symptoms. I'm fine, but
Hmm.
it's what it is, right? So I've
Hmm.
been in my apartment for a while.
Have you have you like got the test back? You said, or
Oh no, no,
no?
no, no. They it's I'm a dental hygienist.
Mhm.
So, we work in healthcare. So if there's any kind of and colds are going around,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
um in addition to the COVID-19. So
Mm.
we just can't, I mean, work on people, and which actually the Ministry of Health pulled us anyway to only
Okay.
emergency services. So I wouldn't be working regardless, but I went home because I had cold like symptoms. So I just can't
Yeah,
in
yeah.
jeopardy like that.
I,
So
yeah, yeah. No, I completely understand. My wife is a nurse, so they're doing most of their stuff, what do they call it? Like teleconferencing, like as best they can. Obviously, like anything physical, they can't, right now do if it's unless it's an emergency. So. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So just to start talking about the training aspect of this podcast, like when did you start getting into fitness and everything like that?
When I was younger, I used to see my father working out. So when I was really young, I used to get to the garage and, work out with him a little bit here and there. And then um, as I got older, when I was in high school, I started playing rugby. And
Mhm.
I played rugby again in university for the varsity team. And I just started really liking the working out aspect.
Mhm.
I was always kind of interested in it, and I was never really as good at sports. So I
Mhm.
found that, like team sports. So
Mhm.
I found I kind of gravitated towards the gym. So,
Cool.
and from there, would, I'd be one of those ones that went to the gym and worked on every machine all around the room and didn't really know what I was doing. And then just over the years, it just progressed, and I
Mhm.
got in. I did one and I loved it. It's kind of just been with me ever since. So,
Mhm. How did you decide that you wanted to do the competition? Like, did you always know once you started working out? Did somebody approach you?
I had a few friends. I didn't even consider it, and then I had a couple of friends of mine who were like, I was working out with them. These were two guys that I know, and they were like, "You're gonna do a show." I'm like, "No way." I think I'd been to one show at that point ever, like one bodybuilding competition. They're like, "Yeah, yeah, you're gonna do it." And I'm like, "All right." That was that.
And then you
So
just kept going.
yeah, I just kept going. The first show that I did, there was only three of us girls. It was a bodybuilding show, and the one girl who was big and muscular and jacked, and there was one girl who looked like she'd never even been to the gym, and then there was me in between. So I took second. And but honestly, I love the experience, like just the transformation of the body. Like I'd never gone through anything like that because I was just an average girl, whatever. And then all of a sudden I was training, competing. And I mean, I was only 115 pounds on stage at the first show. So I was just tiny, tiny.
Hmm.
Um, but I was ripped. So, but I never experienced anything like that. And I just got hooked on the process because it was so amazing. Like, there was a point where it was like I was going to bed at night and waking up in the morning, my body was like different almost every day.
Yeah, yeah.
Going,
Yeah, yeah, no, I
you
can
know.
imagine, especially like when the people, like in general, people have such a hard time like losing weight or whatever, and then be able to see those changes on a daily basis probably like affects you a lot. You get excited about it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
mhm. So did you start? So you said it was a bodybuilding competition. Did you start
Yeah.
as a bodybuilder and then, or did you? Is it that? Did you go into figure like immediately?
Well, I did that one bodybuilding competition, and then I actually went into fitness.
Okay.
So from yeah, I just did like, an intro bodybuilding show, and then I decided, okay, let's level up, and I
Mhm.
put myself in gymnastics. Started trying to do that. So I had no background in gymnastics, so it was a tough go, but
Mhm.
like I did well.
Mhm.
I ended up winning the Canadian Nationals one year. I never got my pro card in fitness,
Mhm.
but I did win Canadian Nationals for my division, like my height class.
Yeah.
So I did well, but my physique was always like the stronger point than my routine.
Mhm.
Um, so when I initially started, they didn't even have figure, and they introduced figure, and then they transitioned over. So
I
I
gotcha.
got
Yeah. Well, well, like to win, in fitness is kind of tough when you haven't had any kind of, gymnastic experience because a lot of those girls are have been doing gymnastics before and then they just kind of transitioned into, fitness. So that's pretty impressive. Hmm.
Yeah, I was competing against like Miriam Capes, who's been like a top Olympian in fitness for years.
Yeah.
So I kind of realized that it was just going to be an uphill battle, and when I made it, like it was always going to be an uphill battle. And she was like born flipping through the
Right.
air. She's amazing. So,
Yeah.
like all those girls are amazing, and yeah, it was just not going to happen. So I
Yeah.
was thankful my body thanked me for switching to figure and just, I mean, I love fitness, but especially with being a dental hygienist, I need my neck and my wrists and,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So what year was that when you transitioned into figuring when they introduced it? Do you remember?
I don't. It was a while, like, it was a long time ago now. It was like I want to say maybe even like 2008,
Mm,
2009, somewhere in there. And so I competed for a few years and then I stopped competing altogether.
mhm.
Um, and then I just focused on my career and other things. And I went back in 2015. And so
Okay.
I've been competing.
So, at what point did you get your pro card then?
I got my pro card in October 2018.
Okay, so a few years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what's the plan now as far as competing? Are you continuing to try to like be on the Olympia stage or like what's the forward progression of your competitive career?
That's the goal. Absolutely, is to hit the Olympia stage.
Mhm.
I was aiming for that this year, and I was 7 weeks out from the Pittsburgh Pro,
Mhm.
and then it got canceled, obviously. And then so my next show was going to be the New York Pro, but they haven't officially announced that it's canceled, and maybe it will happen, but I can't see it given the
Yeah.
state of New York right now. So,
Yeah. Well,
um,
the way,
ob-
go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh, I'm just saying, obviously, like health is a priority over competing, and
Right.
what we're all going through now is far more important than bodybuilding or fitness show or whatever, right? So
Sure. Sure.
it is.
Yeah, this Corona thing has really kind of ruined my year. I was planning on
Yeah.
going, I was planning on going to the Arnold, and like the day that I was gonna leave, I listened to something, and then they were like Arnold's canceled, like or whatever, and then I was like and then
Um,
like I had another trip the following week, and the same thing happened. Like they canceled it, of course, but then it started to become like okay, everything is getting canceled and started to like escalate, so to where basically we are now. It was like it shot like all the way up. It went from like kind of people were, maybe like there's a problem, and now it's like, everybody's on lockdown basically.
yeah, like the whole world basically. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I wasn't. I used to go to the Arnold's all the time as a spectator, and just the expo and everything. And I had applied for an invite to do the Arnold's this year. I wasn't. Um, because I'm a newer pro, I wasn't thinking I was going to get one, but you never know, right? So
Right.
I was hoping for that, and I was like, well, maybe I'll go either way, and then this happened. So, I was glad I
Yeah.
didn't book that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like bad athletes, like,
Sure.
and that, and I mean, great that they still got to compete, but the experience wasn't for them I'm
It's
sure what it would
yeah.
be otherwise.
Yeah, I mean it's different because I mean the audience has to give you, like as a competitor, as an athlete, the audience gives you something when you're up there. And I mean think about like even other sports, like before basketball was canceled, they played like entire games with no crowds, a few games with no crowds. And that's got to be odd, like
Yeah.
there's no cheering, no nothing, just silence. You can hear your feet, I mean everything. So
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, it's a very strange year, and there's still shows going. Like right now, I'm technically just under 12 weeks out from the Toronto Pro because that was my next show that's going to happen. So I'm just waiting to see what happens with that, if they're going to have it. But I don't even actually, to be honest, I think it's probably not going to happen just because it's in June. So it just depends what happens, right? But I'm waiting to see, are they going to have it maybe with no spectators, the same thing, and then it's not the same experience without the
sure,
audience, but
sure.
I'd be grateful to be able to get on stage regardless, because I just keep putting, like, I had a list of shows that I wanted to do, and some that were, on maybe on the table kind of thing, and I just keep looking forward to the next one, so.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you do as far as like your dieting? I mean, you're 12 weeks out from that show. Do you kind of just continue to stay on your diet? Do you, go up and, in carbs, then cut back down later when it gets closer? Like, how do you handle that?
Yeah, like I had a conversation with my coach, and we put a bit, because I was 7 weeks out. So obviously the diet at 7 weeks is a lot different than the diet at 12 weeks. So
Hmm.
we put a bit of food back in, and I mean, obviously I had some time off of the gym. Well, I've had some time off the gym. I still haven't been back. The gyms are all closed, but um, I I'll be perfectly honest. I went off the rails for a couple of days, so um, I ate a lot of peanut butter,
Yeah,
but
that's tough.
but nothing that I can't recover from. Obviously, I would
Sure.
never do that. So, but yeah, I'm just trying to do with the diet, um, keep the diet clean, keep everything tight as possible, and I'm just doing what I can at home. I'm lucky because I have a treadmill and I have an elliptical and I have some free weights. I mean, by no means do I have a home gym.
Hmm.
It's nothing like that, but I have enough to do a little bit,
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
meantime.
Well, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, obviously, I didn't expect not to be able to go to the gym. So I do have some things at home. Like, I have a couple of plates, like plate loaded dumbbells, like, some stuff like that. But I mean, nowhere near like, to be able to do what I need to do. So I'm actually going to try to run over to Walmart or something, see if I can get some more dumbbells, some more plates. We'll see, if I can find something to kind of, mediate this time, So.
Uh,
Um, well, yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's tough, especially if you're how do you, let me ask you this. How do you lift? Do you usually lift heavy or like are you more of a volume trainer?
it depends what I'm training. Like for shoulders, I'll do volume, but I mean, obviously, like legs, back, I go heavy. Um, and especially right now, before all of this happened, I was focusing on like really heavy lifts. So it's hard to do. It's just hard to do anything like you need a leg press. You need to be able to
Mm,
squat. You need to be able
yeah,
to
yeah.
get
Yeah, it's
that fit.
tough. It's tough. So like what is the, I guess, the goal of training at home? I mean, the goal is just not to try to lose muscle because do you think you can actually put on muscle training at home?
I don't know about that. I think it's just trying to maintain.
Yeah,
Um, I just don't think that I'd be able to get enough done. Like, I mean, just with body weight and the little bit of weights that I have, there's not enough to
sure.
really like this. So I think it's just the goal is to just not backslide too far, and incorporate some plyometrics and stuff like that. Like that's great, but yeah, I don't know how long you can go on, without getting into the gym and really
Yeah.
to get on stage and look your best, and
Yeah.
obviously that's the goal, to show up, just to show up and be like, okay, I made it through, and not my
Hmm.
best package. I don't see that doesn't fit into my goals.
Right.
I'm showing up great, not to show up just to survive and
Sure,
show up.
sure, sure.
Like,
I'm wondering if they do go with the show, is everyone gonna come in weaker? Because I mean, as far as I know, like it's kind of, unless you're like somebody like Flex Lewis who owns his own gym, or has that kind of equipment. I mean, it's gonna be tough to train the way you need to train to look the way you need to look.
yeah, that's how I feel. It's almost kind of like IFBB Pro League Survivor Series. It's like whoever
It's like
happens
Hunger
to have the
Games.
yeah, exactly. Right. So I feel like it's going to be a really weak year in general, except for the few that have access to all of that. So I think there's going to be a very, when and if the shows do happen, um, a very visible distinction between the athletes that were able to work out and the athletes that weren't.
Hmm. Yeah.
I kind of, for me personally, I'd hate to see the season get called completely, but I wonder at what point you have to kind of say, okay, the Olympia isn't, because obviously that's the end goal for, I think, most athletes, right? Um, at what point is the Olympia really not worth having anymore because so much of the season is gone?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, this is the first year that the gentleman that owns the Wings of Strength took over the Olympia too. So what a terrible year to have. Like it almost, you almost want to kind of scratch it and then just start over instead of putting on a week show, for your first year. I mean, I don't know. That would be my thought.
Uh, I agree. And the other thing I kind of feel is, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to be able to travel from other countries. Just, I mean, I'm not saying there'll still be travel bans, but, maybe they weren't able to train or whatever, or are
Sure.
afraid to travel, and who knows what will happen by the fall.
Right.
And also, like, even with the spectators, I don't think a lot of people are going to be really into traveling this year
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel like at some point it's maybe not a great idea to have it,
Right.
which breaks my heart because that was my goal.
Yeah, 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 yeah. What is your so let's say they don't do the season this year. Um, what is your like off season look like? Like how do you transition from your, prep to your off season?
Um, it won't be that difficult to do because bodybuilding is the one thing, like, the time is always on your side. More time is just better at the
Hmm.
end of the day. I mean, it sucks because as athletes we want to get on the stage, but everyone has just gotten, like, if the year gets canceled, so everyone's just gotten a free year of growth and development, right? So
Hmm.
put a little bit more in, and you know go back to doing what you're doing in the off season.
Hmm.
So I like to try to stay as lean, not as lean as possible, but relatively lean all year round. So I won't change much because I'm kind
Hmm.
of on a good flow right now. So
Yeah, I mean that seems to be a good idea because a lot of like the girls they'll stay lean most of the time, at least like on the pro stage, and the issue is usually with the guys. The guys tend to put on way more body weight than they need to, and then it's just gets so hard to get that off. But I've been
uh,
I've been trying to like resist just going crazy with the food, but so it gets tough when all you do is sit at home. So
yeah, yeah, it definitely hard. And I'm super disappointed that, because for me personally, up until 2 weeks ago or whatever, or I guess a week ago, I was having the best prep of my life.
mm,
And it was the easiest prep, and everything was just flowing and coming together so beautifully. And not to say that it still can't,
hmm.
but it just a wrench was thrown in everything. So,
Sure, sure.
but obviously there's bigger priorities right now,
Right,
than
right.
that.
Of course, yeah. So, like, what is your weight usually, as far as like on and off stage? Like, how much are we talking difference?
I'm trying to stay around 150, 155 in the off
Hmm.
season, and I am on stage at about I get to about 142 before I cut water, and then I'm stage probably about 135. I've never actually weighed myself like before I go on stage because I don't
Hmm.
need to. So usually my last weigh in will be the day before I travel, which is usually 4 or 5 days before the show. So, but I'm guessing that I hit the stage at about 135,
Yeah.
136.
Do you ever have trouble pulling the body fat off, or not? Not really. It comes easily to you.
Um, I have the type of body that whatever I'm doing, you can see. So if I eat like crap, you can see it. If I
Hmm.
am eating well, you can see it. So just whatever I do is what I will look like. So if I'm putting in the work, it reacts. My body reacts very quickly, but so it tightens up quickly, but it goes the other way quickly
Hmm.
too. So I have to be on point.
Yeah.
My
I'm
body,
I'm
yeah.
I'm kind of the same way. It's like if I go a couple of days with eating poorly, it's like you can see it physically in me, and then if I bring it back, it's like the same thing happens. So it's interesting because like some people they're the opposite. Like they can eat whatever they want, or but then at the same time they might have trouble showing like progression too. So it's one of those
Yeah.
things. So. Do you do anything else as far as like fitness is concerned? I mean, I know that like do you train anything like that? And do you offer nutritional advice?
I'm starting to do the like online coaching and everything. Like I
Mhm.
used to be a personal trainer in a gym years ago,
Mhm.
before I was the hygienist, and I'm sort of starting to get back into that. But I don't really want to do in the gym training because I just don't actually really have time. Plus, for me, like I have a full time career, and then the gym is my me time. So I don't want to turn that into where I'm there
Right.
after work for my second job, and then I find for me that it takes away from my motivation, and it's just that's the place I go to escape the world, right? Not to be at
Mhm.
work again.
Sure.
So, but I'm going to start doing some more on like some online training and stuff like that. Just kind of for like everyday people. I want to gear more towards women who want to kind of improve their health, not so much focus on weight loss, just overall health.
Hmm.
And I don't want to train competitors or anything because we're a pain in the butt. So I'm not trying to do any of that. I just want to help people be overall happier and healthier,
Hmm.
mentally, physically, nutritionally. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably your best bet too, because I mean, the market is really geared. Like, there's a giant portion of the market of people that are trying to just get healthier, as opposed to people that are trying to compete. I mean, that's a very small, group of people in general. So I think and I mean, as far as training online, I mean, it looks like everybody was forced to do that now. All those trainers, it's like they better learn if they're not doing it yet. So.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I was because I'm actually just finishing my certification right now again for the personal training, but I also did nutrition and I'm working on the strength and conditioning. And I'm like, man, like the market just got
Yeah,
flooded.
flooded. Yeah.
So,
I
I mean,
mean,
I'm just wanting to do it on the side, but yeah.
right, right. Well, yeah, I mean the difference is between those people and you is you actually have a legitimate career outside of, fitness. And sometimes for a lot of those people, like that's the only thing that they have. So, it's a tough niche to be in.
Yeah. To be honest, like I'm really, I've gotten into my own yoga practice a lot this year, which I found has helped me a lot with my flexibility and my strength, and just with posing and stuff like that. And so, I had been thinking about, not immediately, but maybe in the next year or two, opening a yoga studio and doing some stuff in that avenue
Sure. Yeah.
as
There's
well.
low overhead for sure. Low overhead. You don't have to worry about machines or plates or dumbbells or anything like that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. Where like do you have a way of people contact you if they want like some, advice or learn more about like things that you offer?
Oh, definitely. My Instagram is Jennifer Reece _ IFBB Pro, or my Hotmail, jenniferreece@hotmail.com. I don't have a website currently, but
Okay. Awesome, awesome. So yeah, so definitely, guys, check that out. Contact Jennifer if you have any questions. And hey, I appreciate you coming on, and thank you so much. And I hope everything works out, with the situation in the world, so you can continue, with your life.
yeah, yeah. I hope for myself, but for everybody else as
Sure.
well. Like it's a tough time right now, so but we'll
Yeah,
get through it. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, slowly but
You don't
surely
have,
we'll make it. Mhm. All right,
yeah, for sure.
thanks again. Take
My
care.
pleasure.
Bye.
Goodbye.